10 years from now, I get a call from Paul. Hey, Matt, remember that time when you said, like, damn it. Okay, so there you go. That's my salt licorice bet.
Come on, grandkids, gather around. We're gonna watch, Granddad and Matt eat some.
They don't even make
candy.
that anymore.
Okay. I saved some.
Damn it!
It's rancid, and you don't like it.
Hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about Loki, Season 1, Episode 2, The Variant. And my cat wants to come in, so we're just going to... Kittalore might make an appearance. Here she comes now, in fact. All right, Kittalore! All right, she is the variant in this episode. All right, go get him, Kittalore. All right. We open with TVA hunters arriving at a Renaissance Festival, a.k.a. a Renfest, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin in 1985. Loki 2, whom we'll now just call Lady Loki, has set a trap. She kidnaps a TVA hunter, and importantly, her gear. That's our opening. We end with all hell breaking loose in 2050 Alabama. Lady Loki reveals herself as Lady Loki, and sends dozens of time reset charges to times and locations across the sacred timeline, including not just Earth, everywhere. She then leaves through a portal, and as Mobius yells at Loki to stop, Loki follows Lady Loki through the portal. That's our beginning and end. There's a whole lot to talk about here. It's actually tough to process it all and put it into organized things we can chat about. But Paul, what did you think generally?
I am judging him silently.
Okay, you're judging me.
Now it's actually now silently. I am now speaking it out loud.
You're judging me for thinking this is a complicated episode to discuss. But all right,
that's right. It's simple.
Simple. It's simple. It's 3 words. Okay. No. All right, Paul. What did you think about this episode, good sir?
I certainly enjoyed it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's funny actually. I'm wondering if we're going to need to. There have been some people suggesting that this is not, in fact, Lady Loki. That it is.
Right. Good point. I did say Lady Loki. I've seen that there's the main disagreement seems to be the fact that she's listed as Sylvie in the credits in one country's credits, and also. Yes. When Loki is looking through different paperwork, he sees a Sylvie Laufey-Dottir.
And the variant says, don't call me Loki.
Right, she said, don't call me Loki. So there is a Sylvie that's an enchantress in the comics. I think that's getting too far afield for the show. I think the show is just saying, this is a Loki variant who was named Sylvie. That's my
certainly
guess.
One of the complicating factors is the character in the comics who is not the original Enchantress, but a later Enchantress, was named Sylvie. A reason why I might be reluctant to disbelieve the rumors is that they would want the actual Enchantress to be the Enchantress.
Okay.
The one who has a closer connection to Asgardian lore. But, who knows?
I got you. It's possible. It just seems like that's one twist reveal too far. Where they're like they've said, like, it's a Loki, it's you. You're chasing after yourself. You got to do this. He sees her, seems to recognize a kindred spirit. They go through the fact that all Lokis aren't the same. They have different looks and they have different power sets, so it's not unusual for them to then go, oh yeah, by the way, it's not Loki. I mean, like, what to what end? Just, I don't know. Like,
you could ask that of Boner as well.
That's a good point. That's true. That's true. She could be,
and you could look at that as sort of like, oh, we can tease you, but no, then we're gonna not do it. And the other thing that people have observed is the whole Loki actually calls out the particular thing that she does as enchantments.
Good point.
And says, hey, this is kind of this particular thing to do.
Right.
And he was able to do a similar thing when he had the scepter.
Mind Stone. Yeah.
Yeah. In
right. He could. We'll talk about her power set.
Do it by himself. He needed an external device to do it. So.
Okay, I just don't know what they get out of that. But
I'm
okay.
just saying, yeah. I mean, as long as you don't, bet eating any disgusting things because of it, you can say whatever you want, and there's no consequences.
That's a good point. This might be a candy eating thing. I have a lot of theories that we're going to talk about today that I would not bet eating candy on for sure because they're. But this one, in my gut, I feel like this is a lady version of Loki and not like, no, the whole time I wasn't that at all. It feels weird. I just feels like, one step. So you know what? If at the end of this, in episode 6, if it turns out she's like, hey, I was the Enchantress all along, and it's not like they combine the two characters. If they combine the two characters into one, that I'm not eating candy. But if they have like, oh no, there's a Lady Loki, and I'm not her, I'm this other person pretending to be her.
Does that mean the 6th episode?
No, just by then. I will eat. I'll do the salt licorice. That'll be my salt licorice.
So if it's revealed, like in Doctor Strange and the
I see what you mean. After episodes.
Yeah. If it's
okay, fair enough.
You're like,
How about within the next 365 days, within the next year? I gotta have an end point to it, right? 10 years from now, I get a call from Paul. Hey, Matt, remember that time when you said, like, damn it? Okay, so there you go. That's my salt licorice bet.
Grandkids gather around. We're gonna watch, Granddad and Matt eat some.
They don't even make that anymore.
Okay.
I
saved some.
Damn it!
It's rancid and you don't like it.
Even better. Okay, it probably makes it better. All right, Paul, it's going to shock you to learn that I have been a part of a few different Ren Fests in the course of my life.
What? No.
And notably, back in Kansas City, every year there was a group of Star Trek enthusiasts that would get in costume. They'd go to the Ren Fest, and then they would pretend that the Enterprise had beamed down to like a technologically primitive planet. And so you had this mix. You had the same mix we saw here, essentially, right? TVA, and then people dressed in this medieval garb. So I like the fact, this is kind of a fun wink at the concept for this show, right? I mean, like, you've got people in the 80s deliberately creating an anachronistic world, being infiltrated by the TVA to get rid of a time anomaly. They are surrounded by time anomalies, but they don't care about those. There's one in particular that they care about, right? I mean, the whole place is a time anomaly, which apparently is just fine. But anyway, Lady Loki is not. Eventually, Loki comes back to this site, comes back to Oshkosh to investigate the disappearance. And in that investigation, I think we learn a lot of interesting things. There's a quote where Loki asks a good question, which is, hey, why can't we just show up pick a time ahead of the variant, and then show up and then be there and then stop it in advance? And the response is, no. The quote is, this branch is still growing, so you have to show up in real time. I think that's very important, because otherwise they could do it anytime they want, right? They'd be like, just go back and just do the thing.
Yeah.
So the fact that they have to show up in real time, I think, comes into play in the plot.
And I wonder if it's, someone created a problem that caused a variant. Let's just go further back, which should cause another variant.
The other important thing is Loki, who has been learning, he did some, you got to do your learning on the TVA. So he quotes from the manual about these time reset charges.
Yes.
We see a time reset charge as well, which I still have big questions about what these things do. But the quote is, reset charges prune the affected radius of a branched timeline, allowing time to heal all its wounds.
Yes.
And then Loki adds, which, by the way, sounds like a nice way of saying disintegrate everything in its vicinity. But when we see it in effect a few minutes later, it does not disintegrate everything in its vicinity. That's why I was like, this is interesting. So when we see the thing take effect, they set the charge and it goes off. Things it gets rid of. It gets rid of the TVA helmet that was left behind by the hostage.
Yes.
It gets rid of the broken lance, because when the TVA agent is mind controlled, she attacks one of the other TVA members with a wooden lance. and it breaks, and that goes away. And I think
Yeah.
it's because it was used by a TVA member in a non-timeline way.
Sure.
But I went and watched it multiple times, just like, okay, so like, for instance, the tent pole is in the middle of this zone of influence. It's
Yes.
fine. And it is not, it's still up. The tent doesn't fall down. The tent pole's still there. The grass underneath this thing that's happening, just fine. I think what's happening is it's removing the time variant items, but leaving the stuff that was supposed to be there
Sure.
intact.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's not a bomb. In other words, it's not like boom,
Right.
and everything is gone. It's only specific things disappear, things that weren't supposed to be in the timeline, which is going to come into play when we talk about the ending of this episode.
Yeah.
But okay. So anyway, that's what I got out of that moment. Is that's what these reset charges do. They are not bombs.
But you don't have a theory of what that does to anyone there?
We do know that the TVA guys get out of the way, right? When they set the time charges, they leave.
Yeah, they leave.
So they're not like... So I think it would affect a TVA member because they were not supposed to be in that timeline. I think if you're not supposed to be there, you might be in real trouble. But if you're just like one of the Renfesters...
What happens then?
Like, I think you're okay. I don't know if it wipes your memory if you happen to see a TVA. I don't know.
Right.
Like
That's
a good
what
question.
I'm wondering about, because certainly you shouldn't have any memory of everything that happened, because then why would you continue on with what you were supposed to be doing?
I'll say this, like for instance, there's the woman who's dressed up in the medieval garb who sees the TVA show up. She's like, "Hey,
Right.
You're not in costume." Okay, if you destroyed her, you've now screwed the timeline. Haven't you created
Right,
a variant
right.
just by getting rid? So
Right, but I'm wondering if what they're doing is like akin to getting into a Star Trek transporter,
okay.
destroys you, and then brings you back the way you're supposed to be. Let's say I was walking down the sidewalk, right? And something comes along to cause me not to go as I should have gone across the street, but
Sure.
it makes me go, around the corner instead. And that's wrong, but I only did that because of something that happened, right? If they were to
Right.
set it right, maybe I would not keep continuing to go along the around the corner, but now I'd be across the street.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there are still some question marks as to exactly how these things work.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that when we talk about the end.
Yeah, the end.
Plot. Okay.
That's fine. So simple so far.
Yeah, simple. It's simple. Okay, so one of the things that Loki figures out, he in his research or whatever, he gets to look at the at Ragnarok, right? He looks at the readout of the destruction of Asgard.
Yeah, he gets so fed up with trying to look through all the incidents that Lady Loki did, that he's like, okay, let me look at anything else. And the only thing that he's allowed to look at is information about himself and his own timeline, and so that's why he is able to learn about what happens in Thor Ragnarok, and that makes him think about, hey, that's an apocalyptic event.
Right, which then makes him think, hey, you know what? If you did a whole bunch of stuff that would affect a timeline right before everyone dies, who cares?
Yeah,
and so
which is interesting because it gave him a fuller idea of what happened in Thor Ragnarok, because he mentions throw Hulk off the bridge.
Right.
That's how he gets his revenge on the Hulk. Is
yeah, so that's his thing. Look, there's a loophole in you guys' attempts to track people down.
Yeah.
These people are just hiding out right before apocalypses.
Right.
And
yeah.
so
Mobius rightly calls it when he's talking to the judge a flaw in their security.
Yeah. And she's like, that's exactly why you shouldn't have this guy around.
Yeah. No, you need people to test his security. He could be the catch me if you can guy for the TVA.
There you go. He could be Sneakers.
Yes.
Which is a good movie, by the way. Anyway,
Yes.
so Mobius then takes the kablooey gum from the first episode. Is like, oh, when was this manufactured? Was there a giant apocalyptic event that happened during this time? There was this hurricane that hit Alabama, where that's where we're going to go. And sure enough, eventually, at the end of the episode, that's where Lady Loki has indeed been hiding out, disguising herself in the advance of an apocalypse that kills everyone that's in,
I think you
range.
make it sound more understandable than it actually is. I mean, they're basically like, let's look through the apocalypse and see if kablooey is mentioned. So, so it's like, it's a good thing that the guy was like, and there's kablooey gum, and what do you expect?
I will say
we've seen their records as such that they have enough to record every utterance that a person makes, that every person makes apparently. So,
and I mean, as a practical matter, if you're dealing with the entire universe, and you go, an apocalyptic event in the universe.
Yeah.
Now, okay, but the fact that there's kablooey gum and it's probably Earth-based, it narrows it down at least. But that's still like a big range of stuff. Anyway, they do the thing. One thing you were noting, so the librarian that ends up giving him the Asgard file.
Yes.
I zoomed in on her screen when she's typing in something when he shows up and tries to get her attention.
Okay.
And so it's kind of interesting, actually. I was like, this is just going to be random stuff. But like, oh, no, cool. All right. On her view screen, she's actually typing in, descriptions, summaries of variant events.
Ah, okay.
And so you can see two of them. So one is Suzanne Bogg, age 32, quote, took wrong bus to Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. That's you crossing the street. It's like, what? She just took the wrong bus, but apparently still went the right way. Like you went to Atlanta, but you took the 54. Okay, so there's that, and then the next one is a little more like, oh wow. Next one is for Tracy Wilson, a female 25. It says touched the Tesseract and opened a wormhole to Godthab Omega. Now, I actually looked up Godthab Omega. I was like, is that a thing? It's a thing. It's a thing in the Marvel universe. There's a planet, Godthab Omega. It's apparently associated with Gamora. That's all. Okay. Anyway, that's a thing. But so yes, they're showing that range again, right?
Yes,
you could just take the wrong bus, or you could open a wormhole with a Tesseract. Both of them are equally bad, apparently, with the TVA. They find this loophole and decide to go and investigate this thing. In the meantime, we do have a conversation between Mobius and Loki where, Mobius kind of spells out the goal of the timekeepers, which is, that thing where he's like, I just want to see out an orderly end to time, and then we'll have a party at the end of time.
Yeah.
Is that desirable? I'm not sure that's a...
What do you got against parties? I know you don't drink, but
It's the party that got me. You're right.
But I like that little conversation about, the difference between Loki thinks it's all ridiculous, and
right.
Like, oh yes, he's the son of
you're born of a frost giant.
And, yeah.
You were raised by Odin. And that's fine. So Mobius, he believes that he was created by the timekeepers. So all the people, they're all humanoid, it seems, as well. But they all, I guess, are creations of the timekeepers. Are they immortal? Is that the idea?
I don't know.
I did see this in the end credits.
He said time moves differentime in the TVA, he says.
He does. I saw this in the end credits. There's actually a timesheet that's like a pay sheet. So and for this year I got this much money.
Okay.
Got this much taken out, like a tax kind of thing. So the fact that they do work for cash, do they live somewhere and then they come to work and then they go home and they've got lives? I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, I mean, we know that one of them doesn't, right? Because he just lives. Casey doesn't because he just lives by his desk. So I mean, I presume they don't. I mean, I think that's what they were coming to when Mobius was talking about the jet skis. He's not allowed to do that at all.
Right. So the jet ski is his, his nirvana. Is for one shining moment in the early '90s, they created the perfect form function jet skis. So it wouldn't surprise me if some point we get to see him on a jet ski as some kind of, he gets what he wished. Commenter Phineas mentioned that the TVA seems very similar to the Commission in Umbrella Academy. Right? You've got like these two giant, comically archaic bureaucracies
Sure.
that use violence to maintain a favored timeline. Right? I mean, it is very similar in that way. So
yeah, I guess, yeah.
Those hunters are like their agents kind of thing that go out and make sure the timeline's right. If we have to kill a guy, so be it. So there's an interesting analogy to be made there.
So he gets permission from Ravana to take a task force to pursue Lady Loki in this, Rock's Cart.
Right.
That's about to be an apocalyptic event.
So Rock's Cart's like a giant Walmart. It's kind of maybe connected to Roxxon, the Roxxon Corporation, which has shown up a couple of times in the MCU. Is a big thing in Marvel. And so it's kind of, big, giant, it's kind of sinister corporation, basically. But anyway, Rock's Cart, huge Walmart-y type thing where the people are actually taking refuge from this storm.
Yes.
Which is going to kill them all anyway.
Apparently.
They show up with a big team. Lady Loki, we get to see her power set, which involves... She's able to control, it seems like one person at a time. So she can't she can't control an entire army. She can it seems, at least as far as we know.
As far as we know. It'll just say she can control at least one person.
Right, so there's a person shopping for the hurricane sales, which by the way, if there are hurricane sales, it suggests that's a thing in Alabama. At this point, we're maybe they've had a lot of hurricanes because they're like, oh no. Anyway, so hurricane sale. And they're like, you're shopping during a hurricane? That seems weird. Oh, it's because you're not you. And so this person attacks the hunter, infects the hunter. But see, immediately the first person drops, which is why I think Lady Loki can't control more than one person at a time.
It might just be the level of control that she...
That's true. So she controls a series of people one at a time. Boop, 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 boop. Beats the hell out of Loki. Finally reveals herself, and we see that there are these time reset charges all over this Rock's Cart. They're all connected. These are all the ones that she's been stealing all this time from the hunters. I would say dozens. I don't know exactly how many. She's choreographed them, and she's got that gear that she took from the hunter in the beginning of this episode that she can use portals now. So she connects all of these charges to portals and then sends them all to the locations and times that are spread out around the universe. She and Loki have a little squaring off. They talk a bit. They both are biding for time. She's just trying to waste time so that her plan will go into effect. You mentioned that she's like, don't call me that when she's talking about Loki. She also says, this isn't about you, which I think is an important line there. She also says that she is not attempting to take control of the TVA. Yes. Which, if we believe her, I mean, Loki's lie, but I think I felt like she was being truthful in that moment.
Yeah, although it was interesting that while she was in, I think it was the second person, while he was talking about the timekeepers or whatever, she had an interesting expression on her face. I'm not sure, she probably might still have some interest in them, even though she doesn't want to rule them.
She might see them as a means to an end, maybe, or something.
Yeah.
One thing that was odd, I was like, wait, have we seen that before? Is Loki does the little force pull. He does this, and he brings a Roomba to his hand.
Yes.
And I'm like, what did we just see? Is that a new power from him? I don't know. Does he have telekinesis? I don't know. Anyway, it was just okay. I know. He brought his version of Mjolnir. Mjolnir the Roomba. Yes. I am worthy of this Roomba.
I mean, to me, he does low level magic all the time. So to me, it just fits in with that.
Just fits into that. Okay. At first I thought maybe it was an illusion, but I'm like, no, it doesn't look like an illusion. It looks like he actually brought a Roomba to himself. Let's talk about what we think Lady Loki, Sylvie, is attempting to do here. All right, so she sends these things away. We come back to the TVA, and all hell's breaking loose. Oh God, the sacred timeline's in real trouble. There's a multiverse imminent. It's like all the little things are branching off, and they send just tons of agents through the portals to go because they got to deal with it in real time. So they take off to handle all these variant events. What is your thought, good sir? I have some theories of my own, but go for it.
This might show how I've been tainted a little too much by what I've seen people talking about, where if it's not the perhaps Sylvie actually being someone other than Loki,
okay,
who wants some reality that she was involved in to still exist,
okay,
then I don't know. But that's what I think. I don't think she's actually Lady Loki, and I think that she's, trying to cause some reality that she was a part of to exist.
Whoa! So you think I'm going to be eating salt licorice by episode 6? All right.
I think it's possible.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But it's like, would I put money on it or eat something I don't like? No. I wouldn't.
Okay, I got you. It's just interesting. We don't know anything about Lady Loki anyway. So in some ways, it's like, fine, you've got this other version of Loki, and that person has the power to do what she's doing. It doesn't seem to give you anything to be like, oh no, that person you didn't know that we gave powers to? Well, it wasn't actually her. It was another person that has similar powers. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no. I mean, if they're planning on destroying, getting rid of Lady Loki at the end of this show, then that makes sense to me. But if you're like, wait, we might want this person to stick around, to me it has more import if it's not just another Loki.
Okay, I got you.
And I think that, having mysteries that they keep from the audience, I think it's, nice to have that as a, and it was also revealed this. So that, I finally, over the weekend, I binged Mayor of, what is it?
Mayor of Easttown.
Mayor of Easttown. And,
I like the show. I watched it.
There were a number of things that they sort of kept to the end, so they get the whoop, twist, twist.
They had a lot of red herrings, and then we tell you why it was red herring.
Yeah, so to me, it feels like a red herring.
Okay.
Because the first episode, they're like, you don't know who it is. And the second episode, oh, it's you. And then by the end, oh, it's Lady Loki. Oh, now it's settled? Okay.
I got you. Okay. All right. Good point. They did show those little animations of the different types of Lokis. They had like the Hulk Loki.
Yes.
I should mention real fast before we talk more about the end, which was that to test the theory that you could screw with reality before an apocalypse, they go to Mount Vesuvius blowing up. They go to Pompeii.
Yes.
And Loki's tells them all yeah, you're all about to die.
Yes.
I'm from the future. Blah 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 blah.
Yes.
He's so callous about it, which is it's funny. He's like, oh yeah, these people are all going to die. Anyway, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
I was right. And as he says, I like being right. Yeah. So anyway, so that they
and it was nice to show that the caution that's instilled upon them all. He just wants Mobius is just like do bird calls.
Do bird calls. That was pretty good. What? Lady Loki was, as we're calling her at the moment. She does this plan. This plan felt like. I mean, it surprised me because it does seem more like something that's an end of Act 2, if you're doing the 3-act structure. Like the big plan, the big supervillain plan comes to effect. I'm going to create the multiverse. And then you would spend like an episode or an episode and a half trying to fix it. So this seems more like a end of episode 4, somewhere in episode 5 type thing. Right, so my point being is, I think we can take from the fact that this comes so early, that this is not the big plan. This isn't the thing.
Well,
this is a prelude to the actual thing.
Sure.
The Bond films, probably more than any over the decades, have perfected the supervillain story arc. So this would be the equivalent of what's one of the better ones? Skyfall. Silva. Is it Sylvie? No. Anyway, Javier Bardem blows up MI6 in Act 1, but that's not his big plan. His big plan is I'm going to take out M in person, and you find out at the end of Act 2. This feels like an end of Act 2 thing, but it's not. It's an Act 1 thing. So I've heard this going around, and this occurred to me as I was watching it, that one of the things she might be attempting to do is just clear out the TVA so that she can then go to it and it's unguarded because all the TVA agents are busy trying to put out fires, that she's kind of got free run of the place. It's now vulnerable, and so she can then kind of get what she wants out of it. And there's a little justification for that when we see Ravonna Slayer. She sees what's going on. Oh, crap. And she goes and grabs her, whatever they're called, her pain stick.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is, I think one interpretation of that is she has figured out, you know what she's doing? She's clearing out all the guards, and now I'm going to have to defend this place, this TVA. Anyway, just a thought. So I would not surprise me if we see Lady Loki
I don't feel like
in the TVA at some point.
I feel like there's a problem and she's trying to take what she needs to deal with it. So she has to leave her office to sort of say, okay, here's our plan. So that's how I interpreted it.
What we talked about earlier in this recap about the effects of time reset charges, that they seem to disintegrate things that aren't supposed to be there, but leave alone things that are supposed to be there.
Sure.
Like the tent pole. So, if Lady Loki had just sent a time charge to a random location, whatever, just in the middle of the street here in Chicago,
yes,
and it goes off, theoretically nothing would happen. It would spread out, but everything was supposed to be there, so it would just be, it wouldn't change anything.
Right.
Because there's nothing to change.
Sure.
So I'm guessing what this means is she's sending these things to specific times where time changes happened. And so my guess, this is weird. This is where I'm like, I'm not going to bet licorice on it, but perhaps she knows here's a very specific set of potentially big variations, maybe even Nexus type events that occurred across the universe at these times. The TVA came in and fixed these problems once upon a time. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send in a charge while the TVA is there setting their own charge.
Yeah.
Meaning I wipe out the TVA and hence the original variation goes through.
I can see
so
that.
So like she kills a whole bunch of TVA agents basically, and so that could be,
I can see that.
A time charge on top of a time charge. Like, oh God, so I don't know. That's an idea, which would obviously make things very wacky.
Yes,
but then
wacky.
You got this third set of TVA agents. No, would it be no? It'd be a second set. A second set coming in to try to save the day. Do they also get killed, or are they able to then stop the problem? I'm thinking because this is episode 2, maybe they stop the problem temporarily. It's confusing. That's all. And it's mainly because we don't know exactly what these charges do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like if she was just sending them to random locations and they went off, it wouldn't matter. It would just be like, so. But because they're causing these things, she changed something.
Yeah.
Or maybe she altered them. I don't know if she has that ability, but she might. I don't know. Does she have the ability to change the time reset charges to do something different? I don't know. Maybe create variations instead of getting rid of them?
I mean, we saw the timeline branching off. So
correct.
It's either behaving the way it's supposed to or it branches off. So there are all sorts of, wild changes all throughout the universe, like you said. So where whether or not they're able to curb those, and I'm guessing, if I had to guess, I'd say they can't.
Okay.
Although
so a multiverse is created, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like maybe as early as next episode.
Yeah. Well, what I see is this. I guess it's successful, and then they have to do whatever they did in the first place to nullify all the warring stuff that they did before. So you have 2 episodes wherein, oh wow, this is really bad, and then the fourth episode where it's like, okay, we're gonna have to do what we did before to get everything back. So that's the final thing, and then Lady Loki prevents that from happening, and we have the multiverse. That's what I think is gonna. That's me.
It's simple.
Then we
simple.
have madness.
So simple.
As they've
So simple,
said,
Paul.
we have madness.
Another commenter, Lulu, suggests that the timekeepers want this specific timeline because this is the timeline in which they exist. And so maybe that is their reasoning for wanting to keep this particular one timeline along. But anyway, which I think is a good idea. I do feel like perhaps we could see Lady Loki arrive at a fairly empty TVA and kind of like demand an audience with the timekeepers. We did hear this. They dropped this, right? The guard that had been kidnapped, like, I told her how she could get to the timekeepers. She didn't say the TVA. She said the timekeepers.
Sure.
So the fact that she gave the location of the timekeepers to Lady Loki suggests, it's Chekhov's timekeeper.
Yeah, I thought it was rather strange that this particular hunter would know. It's like it's something that Mobius doesn't seem to be aware of, right? Because he depends upon Ravana to give him information about what they're thinking and doing. Right. So it's interesting to me that Hunter would have knowledge of where they are.
Okay, what do you mean? What do you think that suggests?
I mean, I don't know yet. I just think it's interesting. Okay. That's all. Like maybe Mobius knows too, but he doesn't do anything about it.
Right. Maybe it's like, that's maybe it's like similar. We've seen that elevator that's like, access denied. Maybe it's like she knows where to go, but she can't get there. Oh yeah, there's this access denied place. I can't get there myself.
The other thing I could think of is like, she just happened to be one of the people that perhaps guards it. Or it's kept secret from everyone except people who bring people in and out of there or whatever. So she just happened to be someone who fit that criteria. That's the only other thing I can think of.
She's mumbling about like it's real, it's real. I was talking to Jackie, my wife, about this, and we kind of agreed that to get the information out of the hunter, Lady Loki did some kind of an illusion. Something meaningful to her that she interpreted as real. That was some kind of mental torture, basically.
Sure, yeah.
And that's what she was referring to, but maybe not. It might be something else.
Maybe an enchantment.
An enchantment. Let's say Lady Loki does show up for a meeting with the timekeepers.
Yeah.
I think maybe that could be like a big plan, because we see that Loki himself is like, I want to meet with the timekeepers. Mobius calls him out like, yeah, you want to get a meeting with the timekeepers, and then you want to convince them that you should be in control, and there's kind of a silence from Loki, like, okay, maybe that was my plan.
Yeah.
But so perhaps if this is also a Loki, that would be her plan, is to like not take control, but she wants to meet with these timekeepers and get her means to an end, whatever that means to an end is.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's where you'll get this switcheroo that is, the timekeepers ain't what they're the Wizard of Oz. Like, whatever. For whatever reason, they don't have the powers that either they once did, or that were ascribed to them, or it's a computer.
That feels likely.
And so that's where then she's like, oh crap, my whole plan is I come for naught because it depended on the timekeepers actually being as powerful as people said they were. And so anyway, we'll see how that goes. So Jackie, my wife, thinks that perhaps the motivation is to create a sacred timeline in which Frigga, Loki's mom, lives. That the fact that she has to die in order for the sacred timeline to be correct is something that Lady Loki can't abide by, and so that is maybe her motivation. It's possible. I think it's a reasonable interpretation. There's something she wants that I think she thinks the timekeepers can give her, much like Dorothy. She's going to go and then be very disappointed at what she ends up seeing from the timekeepers.
Sure.
And so, for the next episode or so, I think we're going to see Loki and Lady Loki on the run together. And we're going to hear them talking together. And, we're not sure what Loki's motivation is. I feel like he followed her, at least in part, because, if we don't catch her now, we're not going to keep up with her. So I might as well. I think if I tag along, I can decide later how I want to deal with this. Do I want to turn her in? Does she seem to have good ideas? but one way or another, I need to stay in touch with Lady Loki. Yeah.
I'm not sure what his opinion would be. I feel like knowing her motivation is paramount, and I don't feel like I've heard anything yet that's really convinced me what she wants. All his things about I want to take over the TVA stuff. It doesn't seem like should be a long-term project, and if it's not, then that's a pretty sad story for the TVA.
Right.
So,
I don't
it's
think,
interesting to me, Mobius sort of saying, do this as if your life depended on it.
Right. Well, and that's right. He tries to
It's
bargain with the thing, too, of like, I don't want to be disintegrated. Because he kind of realizes, and I think justifiably so, wait, once I solve this, I'm just another variant.
Right.
So are you just going to delete me as soon as you're done with what you need? So, right. I feel like at the end result, bad things will happen at the TVA, whether there's a multiverse at the end of episode 6 or not. Yeah. It's going to be heading in that direction. And Loki won't necessarily feel like compelled to save the TVA at all. But I do think he probably wouldn't screw over Mobius to the point of like harming Mobius in some way. I feel like he won't be the ultimate villain, right? Loki won't be, you fools, you all believed in me, and now I've got. I think he'll do something that still cops to his relationship with Mobius, but perhaps betrays the TVA generally. I can imagine something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. What I'm imagining, I think, is that TVA changes their directive so that they're not pruning realities, but they're doing something else.
Okay. They become the commission. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. They have
then Mobius either takes a role in the new administration or decides that's it, he's done enough, and now he's in jet ski.
So Lady Loki could be, as we say, maybe somehow saving her mom in the sacred timeline, perhaps creating a multiverse. Just be like, you know what, your whole lawful just organizing of the timeline to the point that it just comes to a natural end is not something I like. I like chaos, so I want the chaos of the multiverse, and you guys are opposed to that, so that's what I want. I just want to create a multiverse. Although it seems like she's well underway of doing that already. Well,
not if they get cold.
That's right. And then maybe showing, don't look behind the curtain. Maybe showing behind the curtain. Maybe she has the idea that, like, look, all these people are just based on this faith in these timekeepers. If I just reveal that the timekeepers are nothing, then it'll destroy the TVA from within because they won't have the faith anymore. I mean, maybe that's the idea, is like, expose them. Let's just expose these timekeepers for what they really are. That could be a thing too, perhaps. It's like she's like a god of herself, and so the idea of like, oh, these things pretending like they're so powerful, I'll knock them down a peg by revealing what they really are. And
sure,
maybe. So
maybe
that's a thought too. Anyway, if you out there have theories on what Lady Loki / Sylvie / Enchantress's actual plan is, let us know in the comments. That would be great. So any further comments, good sir?
No, I think I've covered everything I was thinking.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody, and we will talk to you next time for episode 3. Bye.
Bye.